Welcome, everybody. Thank you all for taking the time to join us today. We have an exciting session as we are joined by experts from Yubico and Versasec, where they will discuss how enterprises are delivering pre-registered YubiKeys directly to end users and significantly raising their global security posture. Now, before we jump into the discussion today, I'd like to cover a few things that may be helpful for the viewers. If you have a question during this session, please locate the question mark icon in the bottom right corner of your screen and enter your question. We will be taking some time at the end of the webinar to address these questions and provide additional insights. During the discussion, I do encourage you to view the resources included in the links section of your page. These are free for you to download, so please feel free to take a look during the webinar. If you happen to run into any technical difficulties, please locate the help button in the bottom left corner of your screen. And lastly, the recording will be available after today's session, so you can replay or share with others on demand. Now, I'd like to give a warm welcome to our speakers for today's session, David and Anders. Thank you both so much for joining us today. Before we kick off, I would like to take a moment to introduce the speakers. So starting with Anders and then David, can you please introduce yourself to the audience and share a little bit more about your background and your role?
Hi everyone, my name is Anders Adolfsson. I am a product manager at Versasec, and it will be fun to talk about what we have been working on together with Yubico and share it with you today. Over to you, David.
Thanks, Anders. Hey there, my name's David Maples. I'm a principal solution architect here at Yubico. I've had a long history of working at Yubico for over 12 years now and have been able to deliver numerous integrations with our valued technical partners, including Versasec. And just like Anders, we're very excited to share what our joint solution offers to you all today.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both. Welcome to the audience. Welcome. We can now go ahead and kick off our discussion for today. So back to you, David.
Thank you. First, a few quick words about Yubico itself. Yubico, of course, has been founded in 2017, and we recently had a successful IPO in 2023. We've become a global authentication leader due to our commitment to both strong hardware-backed security, as well as pushing forward open standards that benefit the industry and the internet as a whole. Um, we have been a leader in driving phishing-resistant authentication, both at the enterprise and consumer levels, but also into the realms of government and federal spaces. We have a track record of 40 million keys sold worldwide and an integration with thousands of applications. Anders?
Thank you. Oh, we both pressed. Here we go. Some background on Versasec to set where we are coming from. We have been long-time partners with Yubico since the early days of the YubiKey, where our credential management system was an early adopter. Back in the days, it was all about PKI and certificates. Since then, FIDO 2 is complementing the PKI use cases and in some cases also replacing it. We provide a credential management system, vSEC CMS and vSEC Cloud, that allows organizations to manage YubiKeys securely, effectively, in a user-friendly way to make sure the investment in the YubiKeys reaches the full potential. We are available for our customers all over the world, either directly or through our large partner network. Back to you, David.
Thank you, Anders. Yeah, Versasec has been a great partner to us and really excited to share what we've been doing. But why are we doing this? First, AI has been a generative technology throughout the industry, ecosystem, and internet. AI has changed drastically how we approach work, but it's not all benign. Antagonistic forces looking to gain access to systems, solutions, and organizations have also been leveraging AI to make their attacks much, much more targeted, effective, and widespread. To do that, to understand how, let's first go over phishing. The most common form of phishing is basically trying to replicate the user's login experience with a fraudulent site. There's a number of aspects of it where AI really dovetails to make it a much more dangerous form of attack. The first thing is traditionally phishing targets victims at scale. Instead of focusing on a single individual, they try to cast a wide net as possible to hit as many targets as they possibly can. AI makes this so much more effective by mimicking the experience of talking to an actual person. Of course, then there's the fake login page itself, where they try to get a user to enter in valid credentials so they can harvest them and use them themselves. This is normally a process that does require hands-on work of a professional or somebody experienced in replicating this process. With AI, this can be highly automated, reducing the level of expertise needed in order to set up such an attack. Finally, of course, there's the AI agent themselves who's coordinating this entire attack, entering the request of the user to log in again, trying to impersonate an actual human, catching the credentials as they're presented in, and orchestrating the process behind the scene. And when a user finally enters in official credentials, say an SMS text off their push app or other soft token, the AI agent can effectively capture that, log in successfully, and even pass what looks to be valid information to a fraudulent site, thereby tricking the user into sharing even more credentials before the attack culminates and they take over the user's account. AI is incredibly dangerous when it comes to the current form of phishing. And the numbers actually reflect this. We've seen a huge growth in phishing attacks, not just in the number and frequency of attacks hitting organizations, but the expenses as well. In 2025, phishing remains the leading and has become the most expensive initial attack vector for data breaches. Now, while data breaches as a whole saw a slight decline due to the efficiency of AI powered defenses, the cost of actual breaches has grown exponentially. This is because once an AI agent is in the system, it can move at a rate that humans cannot match and penetrate far, far deeper than we've ever seen in the past. As such, phishing resistant credentials are vital to your internet security, your organizational security, and your day to day operations more so than ever before. So, if this is the case, why hasn't everybody moved to phishing resistant authentication, specifically on purpose built hardware devices? Like, the question essentially is, why isn't everybody doing the right thing? And there are challenges to doing the right thing. The most secure path is very rarely the easiest one, but Yubico has identified them. First, of course, is logistical challenges, getting hardware devices to users, getting YubiKey to users, maintaining the inventory in your various offices and keeping track of devices you have on hand, managing both local and remote users, as well as managing the entire life cycle of a credential. What happens if a user loses their key? How do we get new ones in there replaced in a secure manner? Of course, that leads to administrative challenges, onboarding users securely. Whenever there is a fallback to a less secure form of authentication, attackers will always target that. Of course, then there's tracking the users. What happens when they change departments? What happens when they join and how do you onboard them? What happens when you offboard them? How do you do so securely and track their inventory there? And of course, there's always the manual edge cases. How do you handle that when somebody does not fit into the automated standardized flow? And all of this comes with cost challenges. How do you budget when you have to purchase devices in stock all at once as a bulk purchase? How do you allocate resources for administrative responsibilities and requirements? How do you budget for help desk and shipping costs, especially if you're shipping to a global or remote workforce? And of course, there's the core issue that comes with spending any sort of money on security. How do you justify the cost of security when no one sees any costs when you're doing things correctly? It's always when the breaches occur that the true costs of negligence become clear. When it works, no one can tell that you're doing anything at all. Of course, these are all tied to a single challenge that the industry faces. I like to call it, how do you open a crate using a crowbar that's already inside it? But when you talk about it, how do you get a user a credential to prove their identity when the user needs said credential to prove their identity? Hence, chicken and the egg, opening a crate with a crowbar inside it. It's almost impossible to mitigate that if you think inside the box. The automated onboarding, that's always been the last mile challenge. We've seen various solutions around this: temporary access passwords, trying to have users come into a physical office to get their devices, having extensive identity verification before credentials issued to them, and then once they've logged in, further identity verification to make sure that the person issued the credential to is the one actually using it. But Yubico, with our YubiKey as a service offering, combined with Versasec vSEC CMS, has solved this issue. It boils down to two simple concepts. Yubico ships a YubiKey with a credential already in place to an address that has been identified and passed from the organization's HR service to Versasec to Yubico. And Versasec CMS verifies the user's identity once they've received the YubiKey, then unlocks the credential. Until that identity proofing has occurred, until the user already has the device with the credential in their hands and has verified that they are who they say they are, the credential is worthless, the key is worthless, and your organization remains secure. So this, of course, we're going to go into this with a little bit more detail, talking about how we can deliver high assurance multi-factor adoption with YubiKey as a service and the Versasec credential management system. There are two elements to this. The first I'm going to talk about is Yubico's offering, the YubiKey as a service. YubiKey as a service is our digital identity platform. Essentially, it covers a number of elements. Today, I'm going to be talking about enrollment and delivery. Just know that this is not the limitations of the YubiKey as a service offering, and I encourage everyone to keep abreast as Yubico does expand this particular offering. But for now, let's focus on the solution as delivered. So YubiKey as a service essentially allows you to do a number of things. First, faster deployment. Get YubiKeys in the hands of end users without having to go through logistical challenges of an organization handling shipping themselves. You can have lower cost of entry. As a subscription service, YubiKey as a service allows you to spread the cost of your YubiKey stock for your entire organization over a number of years. This allows you to build budgeting into the standard licensing agreement that most software services offer and allows you to align costs and predict them responsibly and accurately over a number of years rather than having to deal with on-demand or ad hoc purchases. This allows you to have flexibility, allowing you to shift your inventory from what you initially thought to what your actual demands are, rather than being limited by what hardware you have on hand and shipping what you literally have in your stock rooms. Instead, allows you to have flexibility there to shift your stock to what is actually needed. And finally, it allows you to achieve compliance easier. Nothing is perfect. We understand and acknowledge that there will always be attacks that were not anticipated. And Yubico, of course, is committed to patching or fixing or otherwise addressing any vulnerabilities as quickly as possible. With the YubiKeys as a service, you're able to roll out new stock and new firmware with a touch of a button, and your existing stock will always be the latest and most compliant version. So you do not have to worry about throwing out devices because they are no longer compliant or otherwise replacing them. But let's talk about the faster deployment. This is the key part of the YubiKey as a service offering with this joint solution. We'll talk about enrollment real quick. With YubiKey as a service pre-enrollment, we are able to take a passkey for a specific service, in this case Entra, and load it on the device before it ever leaves the Yubico factory. The interaction occurs without requiring a user's touch, but is never actually activated until it goes through a service such as Versasec CMS to authorize that this credential is valid. With this, Yubico handles all the configuration of the device, enrolling the credential on the YubiKey, setting a randomized PIN, and doing everything in our secure programming facility, the same place where we load critical data for other customers. This is again an air-gapped, highly secured, and highly audited environment, so you have high assurance that the credential that resides on your device remains only on that device. This is, of course, much, much faster than trying to manually do it, thanks to economies of scale and the fact that this process is highly automated. And the best part is your user does not need to be involved in this process. Your administrators don't need to be involved in this process. By automating it, the challenges of having to manage credentials is taken off your organization's shoulders and handled by Yubico. Following that, we have to talk about how the YubiKey gets from the Yubico production facility to your users. Yubico will ship these pre-registered YubiKeys globally to over 217 or more countries, directly to home addresses. This allows you to track the actual shipments. The information is of course provided back. Allows you to have assurance that you don't need to do a two-stop shipping effort, shipping the keys directly to your organization and then shipping it to the user. Instead, it's handled directly from the Yubico production facilities to the user. And there's no logistics, other steps that have to be managed that aren't already built into the solution itself. This, of course, covers completely the logistical efforts. You don't need to worry about tracking inventory. You don't need to worry about tracking shipments. Your organization offloads all of that to Yubico, and it's all automated and easy to manage. Finally, let's talk about the built-in compliance. We can ship everything from, as mentioned, from standard YubiKeys to ones with the latest certifications, such as FIPS validated YubiKeys or other certifications that the YubiKeys has occurred or achieved. This allows you to replace your entire fleet once a subscription period. So if in the event that a key no longer is valid because of a security vulnerability or other issue that's been uncovered, you're able to replace your entire stock at no additional cost to your licensing fees. On top of this, of course, every organization is eligible for 25% additional key replacement. This is to handle day-to-day operations, employee churn, lost or replacement keys, or other things that you need to do to achieve compliance. For example, if a group in your organization needs to fall under additional rules and you need to purchase, say, FIPS compliant keys for them, you can do so at no additional charge. This allows you to take your initial investment into the YubiKey and essentially cover the risks that a normal day-to-day operation would not. And finally, of course, since the credential is on the YubiKey, and we can handle credentials on every one of the devices shipped through YubiKeys as a service, your users don't need to worry about having to juggle their credentials. Everything is automated, everything is managed, everything is secure. To summarize, solving the logistical challenges with YubiKey as a service, YubiKey as a service handles your logistical responsibilities for your organizations. Take them off your administrator's shoulders. They handle your inventory tracking through our automated API, taking that off your organization's shoulders and allowing you to easily track and replenish YubiKeys as needed. It changes ad hoc demand to predictable costs, locked in and fits your organization's budget framework. And of course, we're not going to be so arrogant to say this solves all of your challenges, but in conjunction with our partner, Versasec CMS, we can offer jointly a complete solution. And with that, I'd like to hand over to my colleague Anders.
Thank you, David. I just want to check that I'm auditable. Thanks. For enterprise environment, or basically when you want to leverage FIDO 2 outside of a personal level as a consumer, there are challenges you need to solve. And I will list some of the challenges that we have identified and solved for our customers. Timely and complete revocations for lost devices and offboarding employees. Offering temporary credentials without lowering the security standards. Delegate the YubiKey management with repeatable processes across your organization. Make sure all YubiKeys are continuously securely deployed, correctly configured, even after that initial deployment. To have centralized and auditable data. Complete YubiKey management beyond setting a first passkey and PIN. And changes to use cases and configurations while the YubiKeys are deployed and active in the field. This is where Versasec credential management systems becomes a game changer. By managing everything in one place, you get rid of unnecessary work and reduce the risk of errors when jumping between systems or performing manual step-by-step tasks, depending on individual admins. Keeping everything together streamlines your workflows, improves consistency, and ensures that security is applied across your whole organization in the same way. The challenges Versasec are solving are more than just technical. It's about operational efficiency and saving cost. Um, there are many parts that come into play to get a configured and enrolled YubiKey into the hands of the end user. Registered with the preferred IDP, all configurations implemented, keys diversified, policies and pin set. You might want to have additional use cases such as PKI certificates added, additional passkeys generated for multiple IDPs, and a lot more on top of pre-reg. Today, the Versasec integration with Yubico as a service allows you to, from vSEC CMS, pre-register YubiKeys and have them shipped to the user. And no matter if employees are in the same office or located across the world, all with the advantage of combining pre-reg with powerful CMS functionality and your CMS use cases. So up until now, we have been talking on a high level. So let's look at the ordering flow to get you a better picture of the potential. I will go through what happens from that initial order of the YubiKey until it is finally received by the user. The admin in this picture, who can be whatever role you assign to the task of placing the orders, this is not a technical role. It could be the office manager, receptionist, help desk, team leader, anything. This admin places an order by selecting from a set of pre-made templates. These templates include configurations such as your IDP, PIN policies, YubiKey type, directory to use for looking up users and collecting the shipment data, the address. Basically all the configuration and all the systems needed to complete the order, the configuration and the delivery, and also what happens once the key is received by the user. When the order is placed, that user is selected from the directory. The template that I just mentioned is also selected, and the order is now sent to Yubico, leveraging role-based access, user permission, and of course tracking of the events, all of these events for auditability. Yubico fulfills the order, which includes generating a FIDO2 passkey, setting the PIN, configuring the policies accordingly, and ships the YubiKey to the address in the order. It also returns to vSEC CMS the data for that particular YubiKey that was shipped. The serial number, the passkey, public key, the metadata, and the PIN. vSEC CMS stores the YubiKey pre-reg data and assigns the YubiKey to the user. The user is informed that the YubiKey is on its way. The shipment company makes sure the YubiKey is delivered, and once received, vSEC CMS gets notified about a delivery completion. At this point, we distribute the PIN to the user or whatever process is configured. We also add the passkey for the user in the configured IDP. The user now have in their hands a YubiKey with a passkey active in their IDP, a pin set, and it is ready to use for our authentication. Let's jump to next. So looking at this flow again from the admin's point of view, the admin start the order is fulfilled, and the YubiKey is delivered to the user. The admin have access to follow the complete pre-reg process and continuously manage the life cycle of their users' YubiKeys. I myself was very impressed during our testing. My YubiKey arrived in less than 24 hours from placing the order. Some of the benefits from the admin's point of view: there's no need to keep an inventory or track the inventory. There's no need to arrange shipments or sharing of YubiKeys with users. No or little user guidance and help calls for self-service FIDO2 registration challenges. And you get full control over the complete life cycle of the YubiKeys. And from the user perspective, the shipment company contacts the user about an upcoming delivery. The YubiKey is delivered and a PIN is shared using your preferred method. And some examples are via email, text message, shared with a manager. It could be written to a database or another system. There are many options, and we let your imagination be the limitation here. We can solve your needs when it comes to sharing pins. The user can now perform their authentications using that received YubiKey and the PIN. There are no actions required from the user. So benefits for the user: no self-service task or lengthy IT help desk calls. They can be issued a YubiKey without having to visit an office. No need for initial weaker authentication methods or fallback passwords to remember. They get passwordless authentication from day one. So look at the next one. So I mentioned Lifecycle a bit earlier here. So we now have sorted out the first step in the life of the YubiKey. It is registered, it's issued, meaning it has a passkey and it is configured according to that template I mentioned. It's also made active, meaning that the user has the YubiKey and the PIN and the passkey is on the IDP. It's active, it's in use. But the life does not end here, as this is just the beginning, and you need to consider the complete life cycle from manufacturing through issuance, inactivations, use case changes, revocation, PIN actions, resets, and also, of course, also reuse. Lifecycle steps can be performed centrally on behalf of the user with or without direct access to the YubiKey, or by the user themselves, if preferred, through CMS self-service. Integrations, workflows, and APIs also offer automation to remove the need for human interaction when user or events triggers an action. Examples are, the typical examples are onboarding and offboarding, where another system triggers a lifecycle action to take place, such as revocation and unregistration of that YubiKey for the offboarded user. All actions with the YubiKey, regardless if user, admin, or automated, are tracked and they are auditable. There will be no question who did what with which YubiKey at what point. Tasks can be delegated to different roles, and admins can be given management rights over different groups of users' YubiKeys. So let's have a quick look at the area where vSEC CMS operates to give you an idea what can be accomplished when integrating YubiKey Pre-reg into vSEC CMS. All the existing CMS integrations, automations, configurations, and use cases can be leveraged for the complete YubiKey lifecycle management. See, here we go. So I want to summarize some key takeaways from this session. Centralized control provides full auditability and instant revocation of your YubiKeys from one single pane, and of course the credentials on that YubiKey. Automated workflows allow you to create and deploy custom templates and workflows tailored to your organization's needs. Remove operational burden of double shipping. This approach is both cost-effective and eco-friendly. And YubiKeys are more than just that FIDO2 device-bound passkey. Make sure that the YubiKey is enabled and configured to your preferences and security standards. Be in control and enable management of the complete life cycle. Thank you. And we have a bunch of questions. Please keep them coming. And while you post your questions, we show how you can reach out to us for demos, discussions, strategic calls, and so on. And we will dive into some questions here. Are you prepared, David, to start? And I can have a look in the meanwhile.
Sure. So let's see here. So let's see. We've got a good question here. I understand that Versasec activates the passkey. Does Yubico store the pre-registered passkey on the security key in the air-gapped warehouse prior to shipping? So the flow is basically once the YubiKey is in the warehouse, it's in a clean state. There's no credentials on it. As part of the initial process for doing a enrollment on YubiKey as a service enrollment, the blank YubiKey is sent to our programming station, where the event connects to via the Versasec communication to Entra. It pulls down the relevant data from Entra and Versasec, loads the credential on the device, sets the random PIN. All of the information is provided back to Versasec to manage the credential, and then the YubiKey itself is immediately shipped out to the end user. There is no gap in moving the key from the production station to the actual shipping station. It's basically a straight shot, automated as much as possible. Yubico never holds on to a copy of the credential. It is destroyed from our systems the moment it's loaded onto the YubiKey. We do not keep a copy of the PIN. It is destroyed from our system the moment that receipt is confirmed by the Versasec solution. And once the physical YubiKey leaves leaves our possession, we have nothing but a record of the device being shipped out. No user-centric data, no personal identifying information, no credential information.
Thank you. I have one here. How are the YubiKey tokens licensed in vSEC CMS? Our licensing is simple. there's one license per YubiKey that are currently being managed. And once that YubiKey is unregistered, that license can be used for another YubiKey. When will this be available? It is available now. So you see the contact us sheet here, or reach out to your current partner or our websites.
Let's see here. Here's a good one.
Yeah.
This customer has already bought some YubiKeys. Is there a way to control the life cycle without YubiKey as a service? Absolutely. The Versasec CMS will allow you to add those YubiKeys to your inventory and run it through their initialization flow without having to go through YubiKey as a service. If you already have YubiKeys deployed in your Versasec CMS deployment, those can be used seamlessly along with the devices that you may purchase through YubiKey as a service going forward. You are not locked into any offering by Yubico. You can supplement it however makes the most sense for your organization.
Good question, good answer. You can mix and match using the pre-reg, using what you have already, mix the use cases. If you have a group of users that needs to use certificate-based authentication, signing, and so on, you can mix that with pre-reg and so on in the same setup, same system. So we have a similar question. With this solution, is it possible to pre-register FIDO and a CA? I assume with certificates. No, with YubiKey as a service currently, you can pre-register YubiKey for the FIDO use case, that initial passkey. Certificates from a CA can be enrolled later using vSEC CMS, where we leverage that initial pre-reg passkey to authenticate the user and their YubiKey, and then allow for additional use cases to be loaded.
I do have a question I'd like to ask.
Yeah.
David, or actually both of you, and this is one that I've seen quite a few times. It's always a good one to address. Is how does one handle lost keys or the left key at home scenario? I know we also, David, often recommend users to have two keys, one being a backup key. But if you can touch on this some more, because this is a popular question we get.
This is where a joint solution really shines. You've discussed a number of different particular scenarios that have their own complexities. Say your user just needs a temporary device because they've left their YubiKey at home. The Versasec CMS solution makes it incredibly easy for an administrator or help desk user to pull out a YubiKey from stock and hand it to that user to log in as needed. And then at the end of the day, hand it back in, have that YubiKey be reset and return to the inventory. For the event of a lost or damaged YubiKey where the YubiKey is out of possession, the best security practice is to assume that the credentials on it have been compromised. And this is again where the YubiKey as a service and Versasec CMS makes that re-enrollment and recovery seamless. The help desk person marks the YubiKey as lost, stolen, or otherwise invalid in the Versasec CMS solution, moving it into a revoked state. The credentials are immediately on the back end put into an inactive state, so they're no longer valid. They then immediately ping the YubiKey as a service that a new YubiKey needs to be shipped with a new credential for said user. We go through that process. The YubiKey ends up back in the user's hands. Once the user has logged in and verified their identity with Versasec, Versasec is able to reload the credentials they need for their day-to-day operations onto their device, creating a seamless user experience without exposing it to potential attacks in transit. The lost and account recovery is one of the main focuses malicious agencies and entities have moved through, since the actual phishing-resistant life cycle is incredibly robust.
I have a question here. I touched on the life cycle a bit about the revocation. So the question is, how are YubiKeys recovered and reprogrammed, reissued when a user leaves the company? So this is as important as the issuance itself, that you can quickly and correctly revoke YubiKey and the credential on it. So if we look at the FIDO use case where a passkey is generated on the device, so you have the private key on the YubiKey, and the public key is added for the user in IDP. And in vSEC CMS, we track this. So when an admin revokes a YubiKey, we will remove that passkey from the IDP. And you can at next stage also reset and the factory reset the YubiKey back to the initial state to reissue for something else. Did you have some question, David, while I look through the questions here?
Absolutely. All right. Let's see here. So if you want to integrate the YubiKey into your own app, there's a whole host of offerings to allow you to do so. Yubico offers a number of low-level libraries to full-fledged SDKs to add support for the YubiKey into your own offerings. Further, because we are compliant and maintain open source protocols with everything on the YubiKey is based off an open source standard. You can build your own or use a third-party library to support something such as FIDO2 authentication for your application, or PIV if you wish to do so as well, and have the YubiKey work out of the box without requiring special Yubico code. All of our SDKs and libraries are open source, so there's no hidden surprises or gotchas. If you so desire and are feeling particularly like hurting yourself, you can go down to the low-level commands, which are also documented. We just want to assure you that there is no burden to entry, no barrier to entry in the event that you want to integrate the YubiKey into your own services, offerings, or apps.
I have a good question here. The order process, when you place the order, is there an API for this so we can automate it from our side? Yes, we do have APIs for managing all the lifecycle events. So you can have the order performed when you onboard a new employee or some other action. So a API-driven order can be performed. How do we transition from having our existing stock of YubiKeys without losing what we have already invested? Yes, if these are already in use, we can look at a migration from the current state into a vSEC CMS managed state. So we need to look at how they are currently used and if you want to migrate or if it's okay for you to just reuse the hardware. So reach out to us.
Yeah, and this is where YubiKey as a service really shines as well. By purchasing this, you can do a managed rollout rather than trying to boil the ocean, target your most critical users and get them to upgraded devices. And then over the course of your subscription, do a group by group replacement using Versasec CMS to help track and manage which devices are in which users' hands, using YubiKey as a service to ship the devices directly to users, and using our joint offering to transition the credentials from your old hardware to new ones on your new devices. This way, you can have a easy and more importantly, secure transition from old to new.
Wonderful. And we can start wrapping up here as we are just at about our time for today's session. I want to give a big thank you to Anders and David for addressing those questions, and thank you to our audience for inputting those questions. A lot of great questions came in. If you do have any additional questions, if we weren't able to address your question today, please do feel free to reach out to us. Again, you can reach out to Versasec via the QR code there on the screen. You can reach out to Yubico by ubi.co/contact us, or directly with the contact us button in the link section. Both teams are more than happy to assist with your questions. Also in the link section, you may notice that there is a register now button there. So I do encourage you to register for our upcoming webinar this Thursday, where Derek Hansen, Yubico's field CTO, will discuss deploying passkeys at a global scale to protect against AI-powered phishing threats. That should be a very exciting session. Before we head out, I want to give a huge thank you to David and Anders for joining us today and sharing your expert insights with the audience. To the audience, thank you for your time to join us, and we truly hope you enjoyed the session and found the insights that were shared to be valuable. Again, the recording will be available after we conclude, so please feel free to rewatch anytime and share with others, share with your colleagues. Please feel to share it out. Again, it was another great session together, and I do look forward to seeing you and hoping that I can see you at our next webinar coming up this Thursday. Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Thank you
for your time.
And we will answer all the questions. There's plenty.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yes. Thank you all. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.